Terraria is a game with great possibilities for people who want to speedrun it, focus on gameplay, or just build a nice place to live on. Like, most of the crafting recipes are decorations. Well, wouldn't it be fun if we tried to beat it without one of the game's central mechanics? So, how many bosses can you beat in Terraria without crafting? I'll consider anything that has a health bar at the bottom when it spawns as a boss. Right off the bat, you can do a lot of things that would be considered essential or important in the game. You'll be unable to make armor, weapons, tools, and furniture. For the bosses, a lot of them spawn naturally, so you don't need to worry about them. Most of the bosses that have good drops are easy to summon, so there's not much need to worry about RNG. The Eye of Cthulhu spawns naturally, the Heart of Cthulhu and Eater of Worlds can both be spawned by destroying Crimson Hearts or Shadow Orbs in the Crimson or Corruption using explosives. Queen Bee has that, which you can find in most jungle hives. Skeleton can be easily spawned by talking to the old man in the dungeon, and can actually be fought again if you come across the Clothier Voodoo Doll, dropped by some dungeon enemies. After that, the Wall of Flat... well, you need a crafted item to summon it, so never mind that. So, you get to the end of hard mode with the Wall of Flesh, which you can just summon by tossing a guide Voodoo Doll into lava, or tricking the guide into moving in the underworld and throwing him in yourself. Very family friendly. So we finally get out of hard mode with only one boss that can't be defeated, but things only get worse from here. First, never mind, they added another boss. I don't think I should be making a challenge like this so I'm not updated on Terraria content. Either way, Queen Slime is pretty easy to summon, since you only need an item that grows on the underground hallow. Now, for the actual mechanical bosses, all of them spawn naturally after destroying an altar with the Pwn Hammer, or Wall of Flesh drop. With patience, you can also grind the items that summon them as long as you haven't beaten them yet, but they just drop items that are used for crafting, so beating them more than once just gives you more money. After the what... okay, but... you probably need an item or... The following bosses can be fought at your own pace. Plantera can just be summoned by breaking naturally spawning bulbs in the jungle. Golem can be summoned by power cells dropped in the temple, which you can access right after beating Plantera. Duke Fishron spawns after fishing with Truffle Worm, found in the Mushroom Biome. The Empress of Light, which I totally knew existed, shows up after you kill this butterfly in the Hallow. Getting to the endgame, the Lunatic Cultist is summoned after killing all the cultists in the dungeon entrance, after Golem. After that, the Pillars are summoned, then Moonlord can be fought. I didn't think we could get this far. Regarding the event bosses, the Old One's Army and Martian Madness can be started by using items sold by the Barkeeper and letting a Martian probe escape. The Pirate Invasion happens naturally. The Pumpkin Moon and Frost Moon, however, can only be started with an item that must be crafted. So, out of the 33 bosses in Terraria, only 7 can't be beaten without crafting. That's way more than I expected. And this is good, right? Like such a huge part of Terraria isn't even needed to defeat most bosses, including the final one of the game. But this is all in theory, because I, someone that hasn't played Terraria in ages, had no idea that some of these bosses existed and never even got past Golem, will take on this challenge. This is definitely a good idea. I created a small world instead of a large one, so I could get to the underworld easily. So from the start, I already noticed how horrible this was going to be. I thought I got good luck by coming across 2 abandoned houses, but all I got was an umbrella and an equip that makes you run faster. Both are good, but it's not what I was expecting. Things got even worse after I found the Crimson quickly in both directions and got mauled an embarrassing number of times. I got past the West Crimson section only to be met with the jungle, the other hardest surface biome. I didn't last long in either, but I still managed to get some climbing equipment and my first decent weapon. Overall, the lack of rope, torches, explosives, and damage was frustrating, but I left that session mainly because of the lack of houses. The Merchant and the Militionist would be essential since they provide a way to dump valuable items I wouldn't use, an endless amount of torches, glow sticks, and explosives. I thought I could simply put torches in abandoned houses and they'd become usable, but I completely forgot about their need for chairs and tables. Back to the drawing board. However, I immediately found a place of natural house that only needs lighting, floating islands. Additionally, houses only need the following: 60 tiles of walled space including the frame, a light source, a flat surface item, a comfort item, and an entry item. The first and second are easy to understand, although you can circumvent using walls. The third one includes tables and pianos, which are somewhat common in abandoned houses. The comfort items are probably the hardest to find, and the entry can just be a door or platforms. While looking for better gear, I also found out how fishing can help you with that. To start things off, the only really necessary item is a fishing pole. The only ones you can get without crafting are the fiberglass, which can be taken by EV chests, the mechanic, bought from the mechanic if the angler is present, and the sitting duck, bought from the traveling merchant. So to get access to fishing in the first place, you need to either head to one of the most dangerous areas, be the boss, and grind money. Or grind more money and have a lot of patience. So for now, no fishing will be done, just focus on housing. With a bit more digging in the wiki, I was reminded that the dungeon had a lot of chairs and tables. Given that you can exploit the way that the game checks for holes in the walls of the houses and torches are easy to find, I'll probably be able to make as much houses as I want when I get there. With all that in mind, I went to the game again. The second session was a tad better. I managed to surround myself with blocks and attack zombies at night, which gives you money and torches depending on the zombies that appear. More chests were found with better weapons and equipment, but notably the other part of climbing equipment and flippers. I thought I finally got lucky when I found living trees, but there are no houses underneath them. However, there was an enchanted sword shrine, a pretty rare weapon with auto-swing, projectiles, and decent damage for early game. The search for floating islands is only doable with gravitation potions you find randomly, which lets you invert gravity at will, but I only found a floating lake. No furniture could be found in the safe area of the dungeon either, which is above surface level. If you go further without beating Skeletron, the dungeon guardian shows up, a fast enemy that kills you in one touch. So now I was reconsidering how to get furniture. Floating islands would take some time to find, I probably wouldn't find living tree houses, and the dungeon would need skeletons to be defeated. But I also found out that the houses in the underworld also have furniture, so I'll be trying to get those since floating islands are limited and I have a proper weapon. Next, the enchanted sword easily took care of almost all enemies, and a lot of loot was found. The skeleton merchant was also there, and by selling some stuff I got a good stock of torches and glow sticks, so they won't be an issue for a while. I also got a few chairs in the underworld before dying, but that's a good amount. Unfortunately, the cheese trap for making wallless houses doesn't let NPCs move on their own, meaning that I'll need one decent house, which should be relatively easy. By bombing the existing abandoned houses, I should get the walls on them and stitch them together to only make one house for them to spawn, and then moving into this. Later, I got another gravitation potion and found 3 floating islands in a row, which is something I've never seen before. With a torch, all 3 of them were now suitable houses. I did try going to the underworld again for more furniture, but got sidetracked twice. I'm still not going to complain about the loot. And then the first boss finally appeared. The Eye of Cthulhu isn't that much of a fight since it's usually the first boss you meet. The fight was uneventful, and despite taking some damage for extra swings, my health remained at a good level and was slain. A couple more houses later, I wanted to make it 2 bosses in one session, but this happened in the Crimson's Caves entrance. It just didn't spawn properly, I guess. But in the other Crimson biome, it got overlap with the dungeon, which made you wary of going further. Again, the dungeon guardian spawns if you touch a natural dungeon block below surface level. So I planned on beating Skeletron and then the Brain of Cthulhu, hoping that enough Crimson Hearts spawned. So, the battle against Skeletron and the Brain of Cthulhu was easy, but I was stupid enough to destroy a larva in the jungle without proper preparation, and die to it. However, this made me aware of an issue I had to address, my low defense. So far I got lucky with some drops and modifiers on equipment and got a good amount of defense given that I can't craft armor. The only way to get more armor is to either grind good armor from certain enemies or change my equips. The latter, with enough money, can be quick with the Goblin Tinkerer, who can reforge items at a price. So giving all my equips the warding modifier, I'll get a bonus 4 defense on each piece, for a bonus 20 total. This won't be enough for hard mode, but until then, we'll get better non-craftable armor. Also, there's not much need to worry about finding another larva, since at least 6 hives spawn in a small world. For a while, I didn't do anything interesting. I fought the brain again for the sake of it, and explored the jungle for another hive and places for more loot to sell. Although I didn't find a hive, I found a temple, which will be pretty important later on. The Goblin Army event finally started, so I started looking for the Goblin Tinkerer after it was over. But after around an hour, I gave up, but the Traveling Merchant appeared and I got a Lifeform Analyzer from him, which lets you see rare enemies around you. It also detects bound NPCs that you have to interact to unlock, such as the Angler, Tavern Keep, and the Goblin Tinkerer. I don't know if it was luck or the item, but he was found quickly after that, and I got good bonuses from reforging my weapons and equipment. Right after I started playing again, I found another hive. I was excited, but yeah, that actually was a larva, it was just under the honey. I actually think I could have taken Queen Bee without the improved equipment I had, but it's better to be over-prepared. The battle didn't take long and it was taken care of. This leaves us with only 2 pre-hard mode bosses, King Slime, which only appears in Slime Realms, a random event, and the Wall of Flesh. As I said before, the easiest way to summon it is to make a house for the guide above the lava pool and destroy its floor. I thought that Bee-Nades would take care of it easily since I used them around years ago, but it didn't work pretty well. The low damage per projectile of the mini shark wasn't helping either. I got to the very end of the bridge I built for the battle and almost beat it. On my second try, I decided to use the bow I looted from the underworld, reforged it, bought a bunch of arrows, and went for it, this time succeeding. Now we're in hard mode. The main changes are new enemies nearly everywhere, a new biome, the Halo, and the fact that the Crimson and Halo can now spread. Now, my first priority must be Queen Slime, and since the item that summons it can be found pretty easily, it's pretty doable to farm it for the armor drop. It always drops one piece of the set, so I need at least 3 tries, but probably 4 or 5. Unfortunately, my lack of skill and equipment hit me in the face again. After looking for some gelatin crystals and attempting to beat Queen Slime, I got massacred. I changed my strategy but didn't get far into its second phase. So first off, I need better weapons, since I was doing this for the armor, and should also look for heart and star statues for HP and MP regenerations mid-battle, because I somehow didn't find those before. While taking every statue I saw and finding none of the ones I wanted, I got a bean sword and the traveling merchant sold me a Zapinator, the most broken gun ever. I also started thinking whether I should grind defender medals, cheese the destroyer, and then get armor from the tavern keep, or keep going for Queen Slime, but so far I wasn't sure. It took me an awful long time to toss away my pride and use the actual sentries in the old one's army, and who knew that the event would be that easy with them? Well, I got a few defender medals for armor, and being the dark mage is really fast with hard mode equipment, so you can get a lot of items that when sold give you a lot of money. For a while I wasn't sure of what to do. Exploring wouldn't give me much and enough defender medals were obtained, so I started doing the Angler's quest just for the sake of it, and maybe get fin wings. Then I realized how stupid I was being. Nurse. If I built a house for her near the arena and just got healed by her, well, with a lot of money of course, I could just survive and never die from Queen Slime. The money wouldn't be an issue because of the old one's army, so I did that, went pretty well in the first phase given that I focused more on the slimes that were spawned, used her healing a few times in the second phase, but after a while I finally got proper armor for hard mode. So now I just need to grind her a bit. Also, some of the footage was missing because the recorder decided to film Cookie Clicker instead of Terraria. So yeah, I don't think a lot of important stuff was lost though. I kept fighting Queen Slime for the rest of the armor, and after a few wins and losses I got the whole set, so I wouldn't die from just a sneeze of a hard mode enemy. The staff it dropped also summons a dagger that would take care of small, quick or weak enemies. There was also a Blood Moon, and Skeleton Prime annihilated me. The plan now was to just wait for a mechanical boss to appear naturally, so I started preparing for it. I made an arena with platforms from the dungeon and looked for another bass statue in the underground desert. A heart statue would be a great addition, but I looked around the entire map, found more statues than I knew existed, found more hives, the Shimmer biome, which I've never visited before, found other Minecraft tracks, and nothing. At least the enchanted daggers kept me safe while I was too distracted. But not everything about the exploration section was bad. First off, the angler gave me a bottomless honey bucket. This way I could make a honey pool to increase my health regen in the arena. Then, I managed to find and kill a hallowed mimic, which gave me the Daedalus Stormbow, a really good weapon for the arena. A pirate invasion happened and I just buried myself and used that bow to kill everyone and got to check off another boss of the list. So finally, after a lot of exploring, the twins appeared. I just flied around that safe house in the middle of the arena, focusing on the green eye first since I think it's the most aggressive. With a few patches from the nurse every now and then, because his attacks are pretty hard to dodge, it got beaten, and the red eye was pretty easy after that. So, with one mechanical boss defeated, some things changed. First off, I could buy the Squire's armor set from the Tavern Keep, since the old one's army is now more powerful, and I have a better sentry staff too. I saw what the tier 2 of the event was like, and the rewards are much better, but the bosses are tougher, means that grinding money was harder. I also accidentally threw away 16 platinum coins. However, being that event in tier 2 means another boss down. I kept exploring, but got tired of waiting. I had money and the nurse was right there, and I already have the items needed to summon Skeleton Prime and the Destroyer's random drops, so I could just start a fight. I went to bed, and when night came, well, I could also go for the next night, but what? Still, both events gave me a lot of money, so I'm not exactly complaining. After both ordeals, it was time for the Destroyer. I fought it first because I had 2 of the items that spawned it and it's considered the easiest mechanical boss. It was honestly underwhelming. I didn't get damaged a lot, and the probes dropped hearts often. So a couple hundred Hellfire arrows later, it was done for. And the very next night I summoned Skeleton Prime and it was easier than I remembered. Spamming the Stormbow got rid of the laser, the Saw and the Vice were taken care of afterwards with the Ice Cycle. The Prime Cannon got damaged just by being near, and the head was all that was left. Without the arms, the battle was pretty much set. With all 3 mechanical bosses defeated, the Planetary was the next target. I was still a bit weirded out by how long has passed since... Oh, now I can finally beat the easiest boss in the game and... What? Well, at least there's a way to cheese it. Well, I got tired of farming for live fruits and used explosives to make an arena for Plantera. I probably won't regret rushing things. And well, I didn't. Just running around the arena while firing using a new cycle I got from the solar eclipse took care of it quickly. The temple was a bit painful with all the traps and enemies, but I quickly got to the main chamber, made a shoddy arena, and got ready for the golem fight. Golem was laughably easy. So easy, I beat it just 3 times for the pixel and it's much better than the beginning pickaxe. Afterwards, I tried going for Tier 3 Old One's army, but it took me a while to get the proper gist of it, and I eventually managed to get to wave 6 every time, but Betsy was a huge problem. I thought I should prepare more for the following battles, so not only I scavenged life fruits, but also used the Shimmer Lake to get 2 items that boost defense and health regen if you toss in a crystal heart and a life fruit. I kept trying to beat Betsy, but in the end what made the difference was equipment. This is where another event came in, Martian Madness. When you see a Martian probe, let it detect you and don't kill it, and then the event starts. It's honestly not as bad as I thought. The Ballista Towers took care of most of the enemies and I destroyed another boss, the Martian Saucer, myself, several times. Not only is this event relatively easy to trigger, but the drops are also really good. A projectile sword, a gun that fires several times in the crusher direction, and an infinite flying ride. With this gear, I decided to try and fight the Lunatic Cultist, just to see how much preparation I'd need. Oh. However, I still got my first taste of what the solar pillars are like. These are bosses that appear all over the surface after the Cultist is killed. Of course, I won't beat all 4 yet because that would summon Moonlord. So, with 2 pillars down, I tried beating Betsy again and it went pretty well. The sentries focused on the enemies while I fought in the arena, going for the nurse when needed. I didn't even check the crystal's health, but I think I won with a pretty good margin. I went again for better drops and got a bow that would be great against the next bosses. First off, the Empress of Light. I had a good run against her but died near the end, so I made a house for the nurse near the arena so I'd almost certainly win it next time. Then I want to focus more on Duke Fishron. I already had a Truffle Worm, the item that's used to summon it, but I didn't want to go all the way to the beach for it, several times. So I built 2 houses on the beach so the Angler and the Pirate could move in and I could use a pylon. In normal gameplay, a pylon is effectively a teleport fast travel that works if 2 villagers are near it, but I never used it until now. Thing is, I need doors for houses again, so I went to the dungeon and beat the pillar standing outside it before going in and stealing that place's furniture again. So, after preparing the place, I fished for it and started the battle. It wasn't that difficult, but there were some tense moments, but overall just spamming Betsy's bow and moving in the right direction was enough to take it down. I also got another Truffle Worm and tried fighting again to see if I could get better loot, but didn't, so back to the Empress. It took a while for the butterflies that are used to spawn it show up, so I triggered the Blood Moon and got them due to the increased spawn rate. I made the arena for Moonlord before going for the battle. After a good time of dodging all the projectiles and balancing it all with healing from the nurse, the Empress was killed, meaning that I have to get back to the pillar. I found a way to cheese it with the sky bridge I made before, and after it was vulnerable, beating it was easy. I probably should have mentioned that you need to beat 100 nearby enemies to make it vulnerable. Now it's time for the challenge, the final boss of Terraria. Most of Moonlord's attacks don't go through walls, so you can just stay in the box with the nurse and heal now and then, while the sentries do all the work. So that's the battle. After we beat his hand and head, the core opens and this battle was easier than Duke Fishron. After a while, it was done. No. There are still more bosses. A slime ring appears in hard mode with a chance of roughly 6% per day, so I just slept until it happened. After half an hour of sleeping, a slime ring started and after booting up the slime murder machine, King Slime... Oh, that's it. That's all the boss is done. No. Medusa only appears naturally on words of the Get Fixed Boy seed, which makes this monstrous amalgamation, and it appears naturally at a 5% chance every dusk when after an altar is destroyed, so I'll have to beat the wall of flesh again. However, it's simply all mechanical bosses, so it should be the same difficulty as beating the 3 bosses at the same time, and that should be doable, since it's an achievement. Additionally, the wiki always has a lot of useful tips and strategies. Wow. So, step 1, create the So, after finding out the worst way that crispy honey blocks now drop lava, I made a surface elevator that ended up being for nothing but to see how screwed up the surface was, and also to break some shadow orbs and kill the Eater of Worlds. After some houses were made and the guy took way too long to spawn, the wall of flash was eviscerated and I broke a demon altar, and back to bed. When I saw the notification, I was afraid. That was an amalgamation that combined the 3 mechanical bosses into one, fusing all of their... Oh. That's a good ending for this challenge. Subscribe or become a heart statue.